Hello student teachers, welcome to your first year mathematics module within the second semester with Miss Team Vega. What are we learning today? Our learning outcomes would be to establish understanding of Luneta's chapter content regarding CAP's content areas within Learning Unit 2 of Semester 2. Second one would be to evaluate examples of summative assessment questions with answers for Learning Unit 2 of Semester 2 regarding CAP's content areas. And the third one would be to demonstrate how to do a lesson plan with worksheets and hands-on activities. Let's look at content area for second unit and second semester. First one would be numbers on operation and relationships. Chapter 23, extending numbers, raw numbers. Chapter 24 would be working with additional, subtraction, and additive thinking. Chapter 25 will be working with multiplication, division, and proportional reasoning. And the pattern functions and algebra would be only chapter 26. Space and shape is 28. Measurements is consolidating measurement concepts for 27. And data handling is purely just 22. Now, let's look at the example for summative assessment for this section. Let's just read the question through. Pedagogical application, the development of a full lesson. Planning and execution of lessons with a clear goal in mind and skills that you must use in order to develop into a successful mathematics teacher, educator, using all knowledge and skills that you have accumulated throughout the generation of this module. Complete the following. Summary of task. Create an interactive lesson. Focus on the relevant topic of a grade 4 class. Your lesson plan should be completed in as much as detail as possible and should be approximately 1 hour, and you need to include all worksheets and activities will be completed during the lesson. And in addition, your resources to be used, and please put effort in integrating your lesson with the theme or units from another learning area. Preparing your lesson is to utilize the following in order to increase learner engagement and understanding. Visual repetitions, utilization of hands-on activity and multiple repetitions, to help learners to develop conceptual understanding. Let's just look at what we have done as an answer. Okay, starting off with lesson planning for grade 4 shape and space. Our topic is transformation, building compound shape, and tessellation. Notice this is really one topic but two subtopics. The topic is transformation and the subtopics is building composite shapes and tessellation. It's a 1 hour, so each topic gets half of the period, one period basically. This is just the common details. Let's look at the first thing they mention. CAP specific focus. Let's just look at the headings before we actually read the answer and then compare with CAPs. CAP specific focus, summary of the contents to cover, lesson objectives, curriculum integration, consideration to be made about learners in relation to this content, direct teaching strategies, and so on. Let's just look at CAPS real quick. Okay, for CAPS, under this topic that I've picked, shape and space and shape, we picked the topic transformation. The first subtopic is build composite shape. This is your first period. Your first period is focusing on putting 2D shapes together to make different 2D shapes, including some shapes with a line symmetry. This is period 1. Period 2 is tessellation. Remember the lesson plan that we showing previously. You're still going to look at it again. Tessellation packs out 2D shapes to create tessellating patterns, including some patterns with line of symmetry. Now, in CAPS, they give notes on how to teach or teaching guidelines, suggesting how to look at, which is this one for me. I decided to pick the third term because that's when teaching experience really happens, and most of the assignments usually would want you to cover at the end of the year the latest one, which is the term, never the first. So it's not never, but it's most preferred third term. In this term, learners focus on building composite shape, including some shapes with line symmetry. In term 4, they will focus on tessellation and describing shapes in real life. And they explain what is tessellation according to CAPS. Tessellations is when learners use 2D shapes to create tessellation patterns. In grade 4, tiling patterns are made by packing out tiles. Learners need to identify and describe tessellation shapes. It requires to create it's just read on this if you want a way to make your worksheets, to plan your lesson basically. But you don't have to finish like the whole of it. Take parts regarding your subtitle. Okay, and yes, this is important very highly. Usually the bottom part gives you most details, but it's good to take bits and pieces and compare them with textbooks. And yeah, let's just look at our lesson plan to really explain thoroughly what I'm trying to say to you. Okay, back to this CAP specific focus to teach how to build composite shapes. This is what we took from the summary, what they want you to do under that one topic, which is this one is under the subtopic of building composite shapes. They want you to put together different shapes using 2D with lines of symmetry. CAPS focus on building the learner's ability to identify shape properties, categorize them with regular or irregular shape, quadrals, and polygons. Further in tessellation, in use of polygons into tiling, etc. So now keep in mind, these are 2 subtopics in one long lesson plan. Okay, so it covered tessellation, the second subtitle, the first and the second. And so please, if you're doing this part, consider CAPS a lot, because it's legit just asking about CAPS and paraphrase. Summary of content to cover, that's just a summary of what you're gonna do during the class. What's your aim? What's the learning outcome? What do you want to achieve at the end of, like, what do you impart, what do you want to impart on the children? What do you want to see the children being able to do too? To teach how to identify polygons, and build composite shapes, what are you going to do as a teacher to let kids build composite shapes? We're going to see that through our worksheets, putting 2D together into composite shapes, including shapes of line and symmetry, and to teach how this is the second subtopic, to teach how to describe tessellating patterns and drawing tessellating patterns. So this is an outcome. It's a skill that a teacher wants to impart and see the kid do. Okay, so this is a summary. This is what you're going to do. It doesn't have to be really long. It's a summary of what you're going to do and what you wish to see. Okay, learning lesson objectives. If you want inspiration on how to do this, go to textbooks, teaching guides. They are very specific on how to write out learning objectives. For this one, as an example, the learning objective of this lesson is to teach how to identify polygons and building composite shapes, putting 2D shapes together to make different composite 2D shapes, including some shapes with line of symmetry. Learning, this is for the second subtitle, learning objectives of this lesson is to teach how to describe tessellating patterns and drawing patterns, to pack out 2D shapes to make tessellated patterns, including some patterns with lines of symmetry. This one is interesting. This is where they ask you, okay, this topic, how is it relative to another subject? It cannot be under mathematics. It has to be another topic outside of maths. This topic is an integration, is that the topic grows gradually into arts and uses spatial shapes to construct image. This topic also goes along with natural sciences and technology structures topic, which emphasizing how many properties of objects are made out by a combination of shapes and how polygons can build a bigger shape with structures as it does in maths. So you can see how another NS is similar to this topic found in maths. So you can't just take another maths subject. It has to be anything but maths. If consideration to be made about the learners in relation to this content, learners have short attention span. It's better to deliver as much content within 15 minutes and then do interaction activities for the next or the rest of the lesson. Teaching strategies. Teaching strategies are highly important. Let's just skim through one of the teaching strategy. Teaching strategy is a direct instruction as a teaching strategy is to introduce new content to learners with limited prior knowledge and show strong research. Teacher-centered lesson, giving the lesson direction on how to approach the concepts and practice. And just to get to the point, it taught content of regular and irregular shapes, polygons, collaterals, and the line of symmetry of the shape using textbooks and worksheets as a knowledge enforcer into the lesson. If you want to see different types of teaching discussion, I will put a tag on top, and at the end of the lesson I will put links just to show you a playlist of different teaching strategies. It's basically chapter summaries of Killen teaching strategies if you want direct and discussion as teaching strategy helps to bridge between direct instruction and learner-centered instruction. This enforces a learner to talk, listen, and respond to others' idea in a concept, allowing a learner to be open-minded to different perspectives with reason and in aim to develop their own knowledge and understanding and judgment of the content under discussion. It's important for the teacher to question during the discussion to improve seeking and gaining knowledge rather than allowing them to just demonstrate their knowledge. The teacher used this teaching strategy to go over what the class exercise together. In this sense, it's just when the teacher is asking, how did you answer this question? Let's hear answers, and then you give them their own give them answers and reinforcements. It's important to give them positive reinforcement, like, yes, that is very good, awesome, you get my point. To carry on the questions, we've revised the knowledge of polygon, quadrilateral, lines of symmetry, 4 shapes, which went along well with lesson objective. These strategies did sense the learners saw sequence and development of constructing their own 3D polygons with the activity. The teacher going over the activity with the learner helped to reinforce and construct understanding of the content. Okay, yeah, basically, first things first, if you're gonna start the lesson with an introductory, it's important to start with prior knowledge. But either you do prior knowledge or you revise what they already know from past terms or grades. Like, for an example, what do they know? Like, tell them, what do you know about shapes? And they'll tell you they have no sharp corners, and you add it's curved. What do you know about squares? And they'll tell you they have sharp corners and equal lengths. And is it a quadrilateral? Yes, it is. Circle is not. Just revising what they already know to kickstart the lesson. That's introductory. And it's, in a way, through revising, you're kind of testing their prior knowledge. So let's carry on. So emphasizing on how many properties of objects. Properties of objects made in combination of shapes, such as houses or huts. Like, where do you find shapes all around us? Putting 2D shapes together to get 2 different composite 2D shapes, including shapes with lines of symmetry. So that's just it's not 30 minutes, please don't. When I say 30 minutes, I mean the whole lesson, not just introductory first period. Okay, moving on to teaching. Now you impart your knowledge using direct instruction, explaining shapes and their properties and different composite shapes, including shapes with lines of symmetry. This is where you impart your knowledge. This is where you actually teach kids. And discussion is where the child gets an opportunity to really discuss with. It's important to discuss with your teacher, to ask questions to your learners, because now you get to see feedback. Where do they lack? Where do they know? Where are they wrong? Where do you need to fill up? And if your teaching strategy is working out for that child's learning style, so discussion has that huge benefit that you get to know how your learner thinks, how your learner or what the learner thinks about that content. Do they understand what's going on? So in this lesson, as an educator, you discuss the prepared worksheet to be completed with them. Discussion comes really well, excuse me, and form very useful if you're gonna have a worksheet, because keep in mind, a discussion teaching therapy, teaching strategy, you have to have a focused question. You have to have something that we are trying to figure out together as teacher and learner. Okay, so you give an opportunity for the child to teach you something, and then you teach them back. So there should be some sort of questions that we're answering together, and in this case is the worksheets. Okay, we said it's informal assessment created for learning. Very important. You need to learn the difference between assessment of learning and assessment for learning. When they say for learning, it means it's formative. When it's formative, it means it's just a lesson, an assessment that just helps to assess the child during the lesson. It's not for the course at the end of the course. Do you get me? It's just a worksheet. It's not a test. Do you get me? It's not for future recorded marks. It's just for the child to practice the concept that's just been presented with. So informal for learning assessments, just to get an idea if the child understands the content, it follows Bloom's, and it has the learning objectives. That's very important. And your second topic that has the homework worksheet as presented in the next page. Let's look at the worksheet for the first lesson. First topic was observing shapes and building symmetry shapes. So if you're gonna build an assessment for learning, it's very important or highly recommended to have a piece of information before you ask questions. Just a little piece of information. Keep in mind, these are grade 4 learners. They just got out of foundation. They cannot remember or attain information, large amounts of information in a short span of time. You need to keep reminding them, adding on bits by bit. And so this is what we're doing. Even though they know majority of the things, there are new elements to them here. Let's read the small piece of information. We can combine shapes to build new regular or irregular shapes. This is regular. All the sides are all the same length. Regular polygons is straight-sided shapes with sides that all the same lengths, and angles that are the same size. For example, square and rectangular. This is definitely an irregular. Obvious properties is that it's not the same lengths, not the same angles, so it's irregular. But these are regular, right? A square is a regular quadrilateral. It's all of its sides are the same length, but rectangular is not, because two sides are longer than the other two. So what's a quadrilateral? Or basic terms, it's not necessarily here because they've learned it before. This is just a bit of a reminder. Okay, how many sides does the pentagon have? Which shape has 6 sides? And then question 2, fill in the missing answers. Here are these shapes, and name shapes used. Name the shape of the name of the new shape. Symmetry or not symmetrical, excuse me. How many lines of symmetry? Now this is accomplishing what we wanted as a learning objective. Keep in mind, at first we said for this particular topic, we said we need to learn properties of shapes, 2D shapes, and the lines of symmetry, and this worksheet is totally doing that, because now it's, see, draw the line of symmetry. It's assessing how the child, if the child knows line of symmetry, and during discussion, even if the child doesn't know, the teacher will assist the child by writing it on the board. So it gives them a lot of space to learn with the teacher. This is a good classroom classwork worksheets for learning. Looking at the second topic, another learning objective was to build composite shapes together. We say specifically 2D, and here we are doing just that because you're asking the child to cut these shapes out. Here are the shapes, right? Cut these shapes out with the presented shapes, cut them out, put them on a picture, building a household. Okay, so obviously the child's going to take this shape, put it here, make this a roof, make this windows, make this a door, make this a doorknob, and you got your heart. This is very fun because it doesn't really necessarily need a lot of things. It just wants the child to cut things out and assemble themselves a composite shapes. So we have achieved our learning objective. Last but not least would be still on transformation, but tessellation. Let's just remind ourselves for a moment what we wanted for tessellation. We said we wanted to impact 2D shapes to create tessellating patterns, including patterns with line of symmetry, and what you need to learn and describe in the patterns. It needs to be in 2D or 3D, lines of symmetry, and you need to present examples that are found in nature, modern living, or even in our culture. And so let's just look at our lesson plan for this one. Tessellation. This is a lesson plan for tessellation. The introduction, we said that you don't have to spend much time, but you're really testing prior knowledge. Like, first thing as you do as a teacher, prior knowledge, even revising what they knew from previous lessons, that is still testing prior knowledge. So before restarting the lesson, you would revise different properties of the shape, remind them once again, and reinforce like comments, have positive reinforcement to wake them up, because they've been learning. These are kids. Have a lot of reinforcements, jump up and down, touch your toes, and then go and sit down again, and let's focus. Okay, just to get that to wake them up. Alright, revising what only polygons have been used to tessellate with one another, one or more type of polygon, better known as tiling. Describing examples of each. This is what we're going to do. This is what you're doing. You're basically writing a diary of what you're going to do during introductory. So you're going to describe examples such as brick walls, or in the classroom, tiles on the floor, at home if they have tiles, or they could just look at the classroom tiles. Tessellation in nature, the bee is honeycomb. And while referring to worksheets done by myself as an educator to the teacher, you have to have some sort of resource given to the learner, made by the teacher, basically. Emphasizes the properties of polygons to build a bigger shape, and structure to build confidence, and C, constructivism to their knowledge, that's important, and let learners know learning objectives are. So these are three things: prior knowledge to build constructivism, because you made examples that are very relevant to them to understand the new content. So you have a point, you have practiced constructivism, assimilation, and accommodation. Those are schematic theories found in Killen, excuse me. Very important for a teacher to know that. And you let the learners know, what are we gonna learn today? What are we expecting to learn? Our learning objectives, basically. So the strategies we are to use is direct instruction. It has to be super short in this case. I don't think direct instruction will be very useful because you're just parting one little fact, building from previous lessons. I explain how tessellation is a form of new polygons by joining multiple polygons together, and tessellation means joining the same or different polygons. For example, the pineapple surface is hexagon shapes together. See, now this is very relative because you are now doing what CAPS asked you to do. Relate the content with the child, what they see in nature. So, like, how natural can you be with pineapple surface? Come on, guys. And your home ceramic lifestyle, it still goes along with CAPS. Be honeycomb, very nature. isiZulu and Pedi cultural patterns. Yes, those are culture and heritage. So you have killed CAPS in this case because you have covered describing patterns in nature, describing pattern in modern lifestyle, and describing patterns in culture and heritage. You've done that in your teaching direct instruction to the children. And now you need to during this using a discussion strategy to complete the first page of the question along with the learners. Now you give instructions for what the learners to get the learners in groups of 6 as an educator. Assign each group to cut out the shapes to assemble tessellate as puzzles, but we changed it a little bit. We made cutouts into 3D shapes, so they are still going to do a puzzle, but this time it's 3D shapes. We're not only doing 2D, so it's group work. They're getting to groups of 6, and we're going to give them shapes, 3D shape cutouts, and they are going to have to make their own tessellation using that type of shape. So that's basically ending off with group work strategy, the kids working together, and after they finish, the teacher closes the lesson by evaluating what they learned from each other, from having fun making the puzzles of the cutouts. What did you notice? How many corners? Which shapes were curved? Which shapes were, we talk with the learners. What did you learn? What was fun? What did you notice? So that in discussion, you give the learner a platform to reflect and evaluate their knowledge through discussion, teaching, strategy. And yes, of course, worksheets will be as homework, the finishing of classwork. Let's look at the worksheets, shall we? As you can see, the worksheet that we said we were to work with before starting the hands-on activity, this, as I read before, describes 4 steps. 1. Create a worksheet. 2. Use worksheet. 3. Discuss. 4. Evaluate. 5. Share. 6. Display. 7. Review. 8. Discuss. 9. Review. 10. Review. 11. Review. 12. Review. 13. Review. 14. Review. 15. Review. 16. Review. 17. Review. 18. Review. 19. Review. 20. Review. 21. Review. 22. Review. 23. Review. 24. Review. 25. Review. 26. Review. 27. Review. 28. Review. 29. Review. 30. Review. 31. Review. 32. Review. 33. Review. 34. Review. 35. Review. 36. Review. 37. Review. 38. Review. 39. Review. 40. Review. Tessellation, as I read before, it shows you tessellation in nature, in our lifestyle, in nature, in our culture and heritage, and it asks the child state their choice of tessellation around their surrounding, shapes used for tessellation, and how many types of basic stuff. Now, this goes back to our learning objective. We said in the learning objective, the child has to have the ability to draw their own, remember. So in that way, we are asking the child to create. That's Bloom's autonomy last at top level. So they're creating. So now they're going to create 4 different types of, you're going to write the shape. Let's say the shape is triangle, as they can repeat. I mean, why not? The next one would be cube. The next one would be hexagon. You see, there's literally examples here. So they can just like put them on. And keep in mind, this worksheet is just an add-on of the hands-on activity where they puzzle together the 3D shapes as groups. Let's see the 3D shapes together. See now, you're gonna give the kids the cutouts, the 3D cutouts, cube. You're gonna put the labels aside. Okay, they're gonna put the shapes together, and this is what we expect to see. This is for hands-on, along with the worksheets. So it's really jam-packed lesson. So that is it for that example. But we also need to remember reflection. It's also important. Reflection is really your own opinion. There's never really a right answer. So you describe what you feel like in the lesson could work well, good. Say stuff like the kids provided good feedback and they worked well with the worksheets. Which area of the lesson did you did not go along the plan? It's you just saying general stuff that you think might happen. For this one, stated that the misconduct of troublesome kids disturbing the lesson. That's still very much correct. There's no right and wrong question. It's what you think is going to happen. Okay, so it's you reflecting what you learned in the classroom and what could possibly happen during the lesson. Let's recap one more time. We learned about the content areas, the chapters we need to learn. According to CAPS and Luneta, we have learned, as I said before, content Luneta for learning Unit 2, Semester 2. We have seen the examples regarding the summative assessment questions with answer for Unit 2, Semester 2, regarding every content area. And we have demonstrated how to do our own lesson plan with worksheets and hands-on activities. Thank you so much for joining me and just finishing this video with me. Please subscribe, like, comment, and tell me what you like in this comment channel and what you would like me to cover. Please share with your friends and have a blessed life. Thank you. Bye.